The year is 1919. A conference is held in Paris, with 32 countries in attendance. And out of these 32 countries, 4 stand out as the principal architects of the treaty, also known as the Big Four. The United States, which is represented by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson. Britain, by the British Prime Minister David Lloyd George. Italy, by the Italian Prime Minister Vittorio Orlando. And France, by the French Premier Georges Clemenceau. None of the defeated nations have any say, and even the Allied powers only play a minor role. After much deliberation, the Treaty of Versailles is drafted, and on June 28, 1919 in the Hall of Mirrors in the French Palace, Germany is presented with the treaty as a fait accompli with shockingly severe terms, despite assurances to the contrary when armistice had been negotiated. Despite their protest, they are made to sign the treaty. But like a poisoned chalice, it carried within it the seeds of future conflict. Let's rewind a bit. The war hadn't been a clean-cut affair. Alliances had shifted, blame was murky, and resentment simmered. Germany, deemed the aggressor, bore the brunt of the treaty's punishment. Crippling reparations, territorial losses, and a severely restricted military. These weren't just terms. They were shackles. Humiliation heaped upon a nation already teetering on the brink. Germany was compelled to turn over its coal mines in Saar Basin to France, although technically, they were under the League of Nations. This provision also stipulated that there would be a plebiscite after a 15-year period, and residents of the region would choose whether they wanted to be French or German. Alsace-Lorraine, a region Germany had seized in 1871, was given back to France. Germany was forced to dismantle fortifications along the Rhine River. Germany was required to respect Austria as an independent nation, recognize the independence of Czechoslovakia, and renounce territory, and give West Prussia to Poland. Germany was also stripped of its colonies in China and Africa. Reduction of the size of the German army from 1.9 million to 100,000, and the force shall be contained within the limits of German territory. Strict limits were also applied to the infantry, artillery, engineers, and corps. The German military was required to limit the number of weapons and how much ammunition each weapon could possess. Smaller weapons would be allotted 1,500 rounds, while bigger weapons got 500 shells. A limited number of factories, approved by the Allies, would be allowed to manufacture war material, and vast amount of surplus including tanks, machine guns and telephones, would be turned over to the Allies. Germany's naval forces would be reduced to 6 battleships, 6 light cruisers, 12 destroyers, and 12 torpedo boats, while eliminating the submarine fleet entirely. Germany would also be prohibited from having an air force. And finally, the infamous war guilt clause of the treaty. It would require Germany to take responsibility of all loss and damage inflicted on allies during the war. The demand for reparations totaled to $33 billion in 1920, equivalent to approximately $550 billion today. Imagine the weight of that burden. Imagine factories standing idle, families on the verge of starvation, and a generation of young men branded as villains. The treaty, intended to prevent future wars, instead, became a breeding ground for resentment and extremism.